All right, let's just dive right in. We are going to take this thing that feels impossibly complicated, the stock market, and we're going to make it just click. I mean, really click, to the point where by the end of this, the whole thing is going to feel so straightforward. It's almost embarrassingly simple. I think every single one of us has felt this at some point. It feels like this secret club, a rigged game where the rules are designed for Wall Street insiders and not for us. It's a really common fear. But what if that's not the real story? Because the truth is, no, it is absolutely not a rigged game. It's just widely misunderstood. So think of the next few minutes as our little mission. We're going to do this together. We're not just going to learn the rules, we are going to crack the code. Now, to do that, you kind of have to forget everything you think you know. Forget the frantic charts, the flashing ticker symbols, all of that noise. The key, the single idea that unlocks this whole universe, starts with something incredibly simple: a basket. That's really it. At its core, a company is just a basket. And inside that basket is all the stuff that makes it valuable. Now, some of that stuff is obvious, physical things you can touch. But the most valuable stuff, the things that really create wealth, you can't see them at all. Let's take a look at Apple's basket. This is fascinating. On the left, you've got the tangible stuff, right? Warehouses full of iPhones, big shiny buildings, lots of computers. And yeah, that's worth a ton of money. But the real magic, the reason it's a multi-trillion-dollar company, is everything on the right. The brand name, the reputation, that feeling of loyalty people have. That is the real treasure in the basket. Okay, so a company is a basket full of value. But what happens when that company does really, really well? Who gets what's inside the basket? To really get this, we're going to leave Wall Street for a minute and tell a simple story about a carpenter. And seriously, try to put yourself in these shoes. You're talented, you know what you're doing, and you've worked hard to save up 10 grand. But to actually start your own business, to get the right tools, a decent truck, it's not quite enough. You need some help. So you go to your friend Jake, you put in your $10,000, and he agrees to lend you another 10. But here's the absolute critical part of this deal. You see it there on the right. Jake is a lender. He's not a partner. He gives you the cash, but he expects that 10 grand back plus 5% interest. It's a loan. So you take that money, you buy all your equipment, and you just work your tail off for a full year. And guess what? It totally works. It works better than you ever dreamed. At the end of the year, after all your costs are paid, you're sitting on $50,000 in pure profit. And this right here, this is the question that defines the entire world of finance. The business is a huge success. There's a big pile of cash on the table. So how do you and Jake split it up? This table explains everything. Look at Jake. In the investing world, he's what we'd call a bondholder. He gets paid first. He's guaranteed his $10,000 back plus his $500 in interest. He's safe, but that's all he gets. His upside is totally capped. Now you're the stockholder, the owner. And here's the catch. You get paid last, but you get to keep everything that's left over. You took on all the risk, and so you get all of the reward. It's that simple. Bondholders get safety, stockholders get the unlimited upside. Okay, so let's take that simple idea and scale it way, way up. We're going to go from a two-person deal in a little workshop to a massive global system where millions of people are trading ownership on their phones every second. So now your little carpentry business is a huge success. You need to build factories. To raise that kind of money, you do what's called an initial public offering, or an IPO. This is the big moment where you sell off tiny little pieces of ownership, we call them shares, to the public for the very first time. And here is the most important part. All that money from those new owners goes directly to the company so it can build those factories and grow. But what happens the day after the IPO? This is the part that almost everybody gets wrong. Let's say Maria, one of those early investors, decides she wants to sell her shares. She finds a new person who wants to buy them. Now look closely. Where does the money go? It goes from the new person's bank account directly into Maria's bank account. The company doesn't see a single penny from that transaction. And that is the stock market. Forget all the images of people shouting on a trading floor. Today, it's just a giant digital network where trillions of dollars are swapping hands between people like you and me, who are all just buying and selling these little pieces of ownership from each other. Okay, but if the company isn't getting any of that money after the IPO, why is everyone so obsessed with the price? What makes the stock price wiggle up and down every single second of the day? Well, the answer isn't really about math. It's about psychology.
When you boil it all down, there are really only two reasons to own a piece of a company. One, you hope that the piece you bought will become more valuable later, so you can sell it to someone else for a profit. Or two, you believe the company will make so much money that it'll just share some of its profits directly with you, the owners. We call those dividends.
So what actually makes the price move? It's the oldest force in economics, supply and demand. If a company reports amazing news and suddenly tons of people want to buy a piece, but very few people who own it want to sell, the price has to go up to find a seller. And on the flip side, if there's terrible news and everybody tries to sell at once, the price plummets. It's just that simple. So really, a stock's price is nothing more than the collective guess of millions of people about what a company is going to be worth in the future. It's a living, breathing thing that's constantly reacting to news, to facts, to logic, and yeah, let's be honest, sometimes to pure, unfiltered emotion like fear and greed. So now you get it. You understand how it all works. But the real question is, what do you actually do with this knowledge? Well, what I'm about to tell you might be the most important, and ironically the most boring, secret to building wealth. Here's a truth that should feel incredibly freeing. Just stop trying to find the next big thing. Don't even try. The data on this is overwhelming and absolutely brutal. The vast majority of super smart, highly paid professional investors fail to do better than the overall market average over the long run. They fail. So, if the pros can't reliably win the game of picking individual stocks, what chance do the rest of us have? Well, the answer is to stop playing that game. Instead of trying to find the one magic needle in the haystack, you just buy the entire haystack. And you do that with something called an index fund. It's one single purchase that instantly buys you a tiny slice of hundreds of the biggest and best companies all at once. And why is this boring strategy so powerful? It's because of this number. Over the last 100 years, through world wars, the Great Depression, pandemics, bubbles, crashes, everything, if you just owned a broad piece of the American economy, like the S&P 500, your investment grew by an average of about 10% a year. The long-term trend is powerfully up.
So it turns out the secret to success in the market isn't about having a secret password or being a genius. It's not about intelligence, it's about discipline. The path to building wealth is, believe it or not, shockingly simple. The only real question left is, are you patient enough to just stay on that path?